people, what up, man? We finally got another balance patch, bro. This patch looking crazy, man. See, I leave a like, bro. Let's try to get like 7 likes. Y'all been killing the like goals. Let's try to get 7 likes on this video as well. But y'all already know how we do, man. We read over the changes, we talk about them, and yeah, man, that's what we do. So let's get straight into it, man. So we got Big Loki finally got nerfed. Y'all know I hate this card. We got Miss Marvel, Annihilus, Dracula, Angel finally, Quake, and Kingpin. So I'm not even gonna read these descriptions. We're just gonna go straight into it and read it from here, right? All right, bet. So let me scroll out a little bit. All right, cool. So the old Loki, right, was replace your hand with cards from your opponent's starting deck and give them -1 cost. Now it just says transform your hand into cards from your opponent's starting deck. I'm kind of confused. Let's read up. I don't even see like how he got nerfed, but we gonna read it right now. Loki has been a force since release, fueling a new archetype that dominated the metagame for a solid stretch. Loki shrugged off our OTA nerf to 4/5. It was a small hit, but probably about as half as effective as we hoped. We needed another patch to implement a second change, so we took the time to play with some fairly different changes and monitor the metagame. As December began, we even saw Loki falter. Darkhawk, Bounce, and Destroy were all winning the matchup convincingly. Blob, Thanos shook things up a bit, and Loki was able to squeak back into the mix on top. Once we saw all that, we decided to soften our approach rather than pursue a larger rework. This adjustment will remove the collector's role as a massive source of power for Loki decks. The winningest card overall in the Loki decks has rarely actually been Loki. It was usually the collector, right? That's actually a fairly surprising because drawing the collector earlier is much better than later when compared to Loki, meaning more loser collectors are in the data. This change will be good for the collector long term because future patches will be able to balance the collector around his strength in other decks without the burden of Loki's glorious purpose. So what I'm understanding from that is, hold on, and we got a little bit to read right here. Previously, when a card from your starting deck transformed, it still counted as starting in your deck. Transformation was a change to that card rather than a new card. However, playtesting the change to Loki above highlighted us to how confusing that was. Our playtesters strongly felt a transformed card didn't seem like the original object, and we agreed. Moving forward, transforming a card would dissociate it from its past life and be considered a new card. However, transforming a card is still not a zone change, which is why Loki's update will prevent the collector from receiving a buff. Currently, this change only affects Quinjet. So I don't have Loki, so if you guys understand exactly how this works, y'all let me know in the comments. But what I'm getting from this is that when Loki activates, the collector will no longer get any points from his activation because they made transform mean something completely different, right? So he doesn't affect the collector now. That's what I'm getting from this developer note and from this second paragraph here. Now, I'm be honest, you guys, as much as I hate Loki, right? I don't think he's as strong as he was like when he first came out, when he was 3. What was he, like 3 and 5 or 3 and 4? I forgot. But he was way too strong back then, man. But yeah, y'all let me know what this change actually means. I'm pretty sure it just means the collector won't get any points, which I low-key agree with. But I'm not sure, man. Like I said, Loki, ever since they changed him the first time, I felt like he fell off enough. I feel like he's balanced, even though I'm be honest with you guys, I get salty when I play the game. Y'all know this, right? So I mean, Loki is just a card I don't like losing to because I feel like it's cheap by itself. It's just very scrubby, right? Like you're not following a strategy. You're just taking your opponent's strategy and using it against them. I really don't like that. But I mean, y'all let me know what you think of this change. I hope I understand it properly. But yeah, I'm kind of confused. Y'all let me know what y'all think though. But I mean, I'm glad. I'm always down to not see this card anymore. So we gonna go up to the next card, which is one of my favorites, man. Why they do Miss Marvel like this, bro? So they changed her from 4/5 to 4/4, and now your adjacent locations with 2+ cards have no repeated costs have plus 5 power. So you can't get that cheese where you just have one card over there and you get the +5, right? So yeah, let's go ahead and read, and then I'm gonna talk about it a little bit more. This is a small change in scope, but we expect it to have a meaningful impact. We released Miss Marvel without requiring 2 cards in adjacent locations, in part because we found it difficult to clearly communicate the effect when it had multiple conditions. However, something we learned from players was that for many of them, the default assumption was that 2 cards would be necessary anyways. Because we weren't psyched about how well Miss Marvel synergized with Professor X, this change captures better gameplay while shaving off a bit of the strength. Even though we adjusted the words, the card is otherwise the same as before. You just need 2 cards at an adjacent location instead of 1. So it's not the same as it was before. It's weaker. It's completely weaker. Why y'all lying? But I mean, this makes her, it just makes her make sense, right? A long time ago, some months ago, when she first came out, I said, what is the point of playing Omega Red when Miss Marvel is in the game? There's really still no point to play Omega Red with Miss Marvel in the game, because she's just much more versatile, right? She's encouraging you to play all 3 locations, while Omega Red, you really only want to play 1. So they really got to do something to Omega Red. But in all seriousness though, I really do think this change, it makes sense, and it's probably better for the game, right? You can't, it doesn't make sense to get boosted for only having 1 card, right? So I agree with it, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think of this Miss Marvel change though. Up next, we got Big Annihilese. All they did was take 1 power from him. I didn't think he was too bad, but let's see what they got to say, man. Even though our internal playtest successfully found most of the Annihilus decks we've seen on top of the metagame, their performance was surprising. In particular, the strength of just playing Annihilus with Sentry and/or Hood in decks with no other synergies has been very good. During design, we widened Annihilus's condition to include the 0, in part because we were worried it wouldn't be strong enough restricted to such a tight set of targets, but clearly that's sufficiently strong. Given that's the case, we're restoring our preferred design to the cards to have no negative. We're restoring our preferred design that requires cards to have negative power, and taking a little base power away from Annihilus. That might seem heavy, but Annihilus has been one of the most significant outliers in our card performance data for weeks now, at every level of play. Even more surprising, Annihilus was better performing in our most competitive samples than anywhere else. Usually, strength flattens up there. That's interesting, man. Oh, so I didn't even read that. So it's 0, it's below 0. It's not 0 or less. So that's actually huge, man. Now, I said Annihilus wasn't that I personally didn't find him that difficult to play against, but I mean, you also have to understand that not being able to stop him from flipping cards to the other side unless you completely fill that lane up is low-key bad gameplay. So I understand it, man. On top of that, you can't really, even if you have Cosmos somewhere on the field, you could just play Annihilus at another spot and then the negative cards will still go over. So that's pretty broken, to be honest with you guys. 0 or less, that also makes sense as well because of the way they changed Luke Cage. So there's gonna be so hazmat. If you play a Nihilist with hazmat, right? You play them with hazmat and let's say like Nova or something. You can't do that anymore. So it's I don't know. I feel like they made the card a lot harder to use. It really only works with the Hood and Sentry now. Like you couldn't do any like gimmicks, like I said, with Nova or like or like any just one cost card that you don't, or one power card that you don't want on your side anymore. So that's actually really bad, right? You take away a little bit of the element of surprise, but I think overall it just makes the gameplay better and I guess more control. Y'all let me know what y'all think of this. I'm not really sure how I feel about Nihilist, bro. But what I do know is I like the Loki change, and I don't like the Miss Marvel change, but I agree with it, right? So up next we got Big Dracula. So it used to be discard a card from your hand. This has its power. Now it's 4/1. And at the end of the game, discard a card from your hand to gain its power. Let's see what they have to say about this, and then I'm going to talk about it. We're still monitoring the discard deck's performance in wake of losing America Chavez. And one of the cards most damaged by that change was Dracula. In addition to this minor buff, reworking Dracula this way makes his text more clear and provides us with additional balance knobs to buff or nerf him as necessary in the future. We like having more dials to turn. They think this is I think this is a nerf kind of, right? So let me just explain it to you guys. So nobody's gonna play Cerebro Zero, but I mean now you can't, right? Because he's not 0 power anymore. So that's a very niche, insignificant nerf, right? But here's how it's a nerf. So if you're playing a Dracula against like a high evolutionary deck, or somebody using Hazmat, Spider-Woman, any card that's gonna take away power from you, before you were able to just ignore all the power that you lost, because you're gonna be the same amount of strength as the card, probably America Chavez, like they said, or Apocalypse, right? But now you're gonna be those negatives, like those points that you lose, are actually gonna matter. So I actually think that's a slight nerf. It makes them make more sense. I feel like that's what they're really trying to do this patch, is it just make the gameplay more sensible, right? So or more sensible, more controlled. But yeah, I actually think this makes them worse, you guys. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Whether I agree with it or not. Yeah, I low-key don't agree with it. I feel like this card already isn't that strong, right? You have your basic discard decks, and then you have your cheese, MODOK, Hella decks, right? But I mean, both of those, the Hella deck is very easily countered, and then the regular one is kind of random, right? Because sometimes you're not able to control which cards, or you're not able to pull the cards in a certain order that you need, right? And on top of that, there's way stronger strategies that you could use already, right? So I actually disagree with it, man. But y'all let me know what y'all think. We on to the next card, and that's Big Angel, bro. They finally did something to Angel. I'm really excited to read this. So when one of your cards is destroyed, this flies out to replace of your deck to replace it. That was the old ability. Now, when one of your cards is destroyed, this flies out of your hand or deck to replace. I don't know what took them so long to do this, man. But he needed this since he came out, bro. The game been out over a year. Like I don't understand why they just didn't. You know what I mean? Like why did they wait so long? He's still bad. He's still trash, but I mean that's literally what he needed the whole time, right? So let's go ahead and read what they got to say. Hey, we did it. Yeah, y'all finally did it, man. This change has been in the queue for quite a while, but we've delayed it to ensure we could implement and test the visual effects. Angel's a card we give to players early, so we wanted to be sure we weren't breaking a charming piece of that new player experience. Oh, okay, I get it, man. The VFX took a little bit of time. I get it, man. But y'all didn't have to put my boy in the waiting room for over a year. Everybody likes this change. I don't even need to ask y'all about that. He deserves that. We gonna be using them in a video too, man. Up next, we got another exciting change. We got Big Quake. Her new ability is swap the positions of the other two locations. So it seems like it doesn't require her to be at the middle. And this is much more useful, right? So let's read, and I'm going to talk about her as well. This is very similar to Angel. Although our solution might have been less obvious, we expect Quake might become an interesting alternative to Scarlet Witch and a potent tech card against strategies relying on Storm or Legion. I'm not sure how it's... Never mind. I was going to say I'm not sure how Legion would be affected, but let's say you actually play her on turn 5 and you have the lead and then they play Legion and you're like, oh no, we just messed up the wrong spot. So I get it. But also I feel like she could work well with Storm. She could work well with Storm, right? Because you play Storm on turn 3. You can now play her on turn 4 to mess up, where your opponent had or was gonna decide to play their cards, right? So I feel like she actually has a place in lockdown decks now, which is pretty cool, right? So you get to do some cool stuff with like Nebula, Lizard, right? Because they're not gonna be able to fill up the location. Obviously, you can still do your Juggernaut stuff, right? So it's cool, man. She actually can be used. I'm gonna be using her again. We already used her when she was trash. She did nothing in that video, so we got another video coming up, man. I like this change. I like that they kept her at the same power, right? Because it's a new ability, right? So we don't really know how good she is, and I'm excited to use her as well, man. Yeah, let me know what y'all think of Quake. But up next, we got Kingpin, and then America Chavez is the last, but they only changed their text. So this is really the last card, right? So his old ability, he was 3 cost 4 power. When a card moves here on turn 6, destroy it. Now he's 2 and 3, and his ability says when an enemy card moves here, afflicted with -2 power. That is just completely better than waiting on turn 6, bro. Because now you can actually like put him on move decks and Kingpin decks, right? He's not limited to I'm Kingpin decks, Magneto decks, right? He's not just limited to playing with Magneto, right? Let's go ahead and read up on him a little bit. One of the few remaining loose ends in our change to the move mechanic during the last patch was that Kingpin and Fist Tower remain able to destroy cards thanks to Juggernaut. It's always been a source of confusion for some players, regardless of the outcome, and Kingpin's been weak enough that a rework was worth pursuing. This change makes the interaction with Juggernaut match existing expectations because we consistently don't let unrevealed cards have their power modified by other effects. We've also made the effect asymmetrical and tried out an aggressive set of numbers to see if we could convince players to consider pairing Kingpin with Polaris or Spider-Man, in addition to being a tech card against cards like Phoenix and Silk. Another upside of this change is it adds good ways to adjust Kingpin via OTA and find the perfect spot. My bad, y'all. I think this ability is much better, man. I'm gonna be using Kingpin. I don't even know if I got a video up on Kingpin, but expect a lot of basically all these cards to get a video, all the buffed cards to get a video, right? I'm really excited to use him now, right? It just, like I said, man, you're not limited to just using him with Magneto. You can now use him on move decks and do a lot more creative stuff because he only affects enemy cards, not yours. One thing I did do though before this was like, I don't even think I had a YouTube at this point. I was doing like some cloak on turn 5 and I had like Nova on the deck. So I would put Kingpin and like move the Nova. That was a really ambitious strategy that barely ever worked. So now you can't do that, which is kind of unfortunate. But I mean, that strategy sucked anyway, so we ain't worried about that. But I mean, that should be it, bro. They only changed America Chavez, her tech, so we don't really got to worry about that. Oh, they did do. Okay, so they changed Fish Tower. I'm not really gonna talk about the locations, bro. We only care about the cars, man. So yeah, man, that's the whole balance update video. Hope y'all guys enjoy it, bro. Y'all be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We're on the road to 1,000 subs. I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.